Okay, well, my name is Nathan Scott. I'm the Executive Director of MassEnergize, and we are very pleased to have you here tonight for our April Community of Practice. I do see some new faces, so really excited to welcome all the new folks. And we will have a chance to just let people who are new to introduce yourselves if you're willing. This is, as most of you know, this is a monthly meeting, and we really encourage participation. We do have some presentations for you this evening, but we really like to emphasize that we are a community. This is a community of practice, a place where people can share, can ask questions, can offer resources, etc. So there will certainly be time later on in the meeting to share updates, share questions, and respond to each other. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is make sure that everybody who has joined us, if you don't mind, and you haven't already, please rename yourself with your either town or your organizational affiliation. That would be great. And I invite anybody who's new, either brand new or if you only attended a couple times, to introduce yourself and tell us, where you're from and what brings you here tonight.
Well, I'll go. Hi, Nathan. My name's Glenn DeBate. I'm from Medfield. I work with Megan in Medfield Environmental Action. Just recently have started getting involved in that. I actually was on the meeting with Bob Zog Friday for the Heat Smart Alliance. I'm looking at becoming a coach there. I'm somebody who's very interested in anything electrical, green, drive a couple of electric cars. We have solar panels for almost 10 years. We have a geothermal heat pump system in our house. So and I just retired recently, so I have time. So.
Well, fantastic. Congratulations on all of those fronts and welcome. So glad to have you, Glenn.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
I'm Jerry Falco. I'm from Swampscott. I've been on one of these before. The first time I came on was, I don't know, a few months ago. Yeah, I'm from Swampscott. I'm from Resilient Swampscott, and we are. In my household, I have a heat pump. I'm completely heat. Non-fossil fuel heat, as well as we just got a new water heater. So I'm interested to hear this guy, see what he says about it. It's brand new. We do have also a heat pump dryer. The only thing that we have gas now is our stove, and we'll just have to wait for that to crack to break down, and then we'll get something new. That's about how far I've gone.
Great. Well, thank you, Geraldine, and welcome. Great to have you.
Hi, I'm Tom from Gloucester. I work for the Cape Ann Climate Coalition. I'm also on the board of Town Green, and I'm the program manager of the Save Green program. We focus on low and moderate income households, trying to help them to decarbonize. So get their homes insulated, ideally get heat pumps installed. So we're kind of out there on the trenches, mostly focusing on low and moderate income folks. So we rely a lot on the CAP agencies, et cetera. But the overall economics are really, really important here, especially with that population. So I'm interested to hear more about that and everything that Bob has to say. Thanks.
Great. Welcome, Tom. Good to see you here.
Jean Terwilliger from Vermont. Happy to be your first Vermont MassEnergize website member as part of the Energy Navigators. So we're starting an energy coaching program. We just finished a group of 9 people, finished the Rewiring America training, plus some additional training that we've done in-house. And so they are starting to go out and visit people along with those of us who are already doing that. And soon they'll be out on their own. So that's the exciting news from us. I'll have to say I have mixed. I think heat pump water heaters are a great thing. I'm wondering about experiences that other people have had with failures and whether we're going to hear about any of that, because I have a lot of contractors who are saying they don't want to put them in because they have had so many failures. And my personal uh, heat pump water heater, the compressors failed twice. So yeah, would like to hear more about that, because Vermont's got a great deal right now. Most people can get them basically for free, but the contractors are not excited about them.
Mm. Well, thank you, Jean, and I'm sure Bob will be addressing many facets of them, and so we can certainly have more of a conversation as well later. But thank you, thanks for raising that, and welcome. Great to see you here. Okay, anybody else want to introduce themselves? You're not required to, but we always like, particularly newcomers, we like to be able to welcome you. Okay, I think that, so welcome again, everybody. So I'll just start with a couple of updates, and then we'll turn it over to our guest, Bob Zog, from the Heat Smart Alliance. I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Megan, tell you a little bit about an update on the our MassEnergize Community Climate Leaders Conference.
Thank you, Nathan. We've been working really hard, my colleague Joe, to get the conference all ready, and we're so excited. About 2.5 weeks away. We are pleased to say that we have filled to capacity. We have a wait list going at the moment, which is very exciting in our larger venue. We're thrilled. There's still room in our late afternoon program if you'd like to come for the nonprofit fair. Or also we're showing the movie David Abel created called Inundation District, and he'll be there to answer questions after the film. So we're very excited about that. We are also looking for people who would like to volunteer at the conference. If you're coming along and you could volunteer, we would love to have your help, and I'll put the link to the Sign Up Genius in the chat. There are spots to help that involve lifting. There are spots to help that involve passing out name tags. There are spots to help that are 10 minutes long. There's some slots that are 4 hours long, but just involve each break. So there's a little something for everyone. We hope you'll take a look, because we'll need many hands for our nice big group coming up. But really, we're excited. Nathan and I had a conversation this afternoon with Rewiring America and Yale program on climate change communications, and we're excited about our keynote program and everything. So it's all really coming together, and we're excited. Anything else? Okay.
Anything else, Joe, to share about the conference? Registration?
No, I don't think so. I think Megan has covered it all.
Okay. Great. Okay, well, as I said, we are excited that the conference has filled up, but the flip side is that there's people out there who would like to attend. We're not going to be able to. So as Megan said, we do have an afternoon program. And if you do know anybody who would like to, who would still like to come to the conference, we certainly have lots of room in the afternoon program if people want to join us and meet others. And there still will be things going on right immediately after the conference. So, okay, well, without further ado, what I'd like to do is just introduce one of the co-founders and co-directors of the Heat Smart Alliance, Bob Zog. Many of you may have seen him before or heard him, but he is an incredible resource in our community, all things heat pump. If I ever have a question about heat pumps, I know who to go to. So really looking forward to your presentation, Bob, and there will certainly be time for question and answers afterwards. So Bob, thank you. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Nathan, and thank you all for inviting me tonight. I'm always happy to talk about heat pump water heaters. Just on a personal level, I spent almost 30 years in various types of energy consulting, and it's now going back kind of 30 years now, so it's a while back, but at a point in my career, I actually focused quite heavily on heat pump water heaters. So Always happy to talk about them. And I also just want to mention that the Heat Smart Alliance and MassEnergize are basically joined at the hip, is the way I think about it. Two of our co-founders, Steve Bright and Brad Hubbard Nelson, are also board members on the MassEnergize. They're also board members in Heat Smart Alliance. So we've had a close relationship since our inception 5 years ago. But if you're not familiar with the Heat Smart Alliance, I'm just going to introduce ourselves briefly here. But as community leaders, you really should know about us. My address is facilitator@heatsmartalliance.org. I'm happy to talk to anyone who would like to learn more about the Alliance and how we can work with your community organization. But basically, our mission in life is to reduce carbon pollution by accelerating the adoption of energy efficient heat pumps in Massachusetts homes. We look at home heating and cooling and water heating. We're an all-volunteer organization, over 130 members from over 55 communities, and we educate, coach, and collaborate. And we don't take money from installers or manufacturers. So that's us in a nutshell, but again, be happy to talk with anyone offline to give you more information about us. So let's get into the subject. I want to be clear, the presentation I'm giving tonight is not the one I would give to a group of community members. I've really tailored it a bit for community leaders and trying to address some of the issues and questions that you may have. I've certainly included some background, but it's not the exact presentation I would otherwise give. By the way, in early, I guess around February 12th, I think it was, MassEnergize had me as a guest to talk about heat pump water heaters as part of Plug-in Metro West. So there is a recording available if you'd like to look at that, and I'm sure Nathan could steer you to it.
Yeah.
So what are heat pump water heaters? Heat pump water heaters, also hybrid water heaters, are a water heater that can improve energy efficiency and reduce carbon pollution by over 60%. They can provide fast payback periods compared to conventional electric water heating, and plumbers or HVAC installers, in most cases, can install them. You're probably familiar with heat pumps for home heating, and just to review, a heat pump for home heating will take, in this example, a unit of electricity from the grid to pump two additional units of energy from the outdoors and put 3 units of energy into the home. So this example would be an efficiency of 300%. 1 unit of energy that you pay for, 3 units go into the home. So what's different about a heat pump water heater? Basically the same concept. You have a unit of electricity. In this case, it might be 3 units of heat coming from the air that get pumped into a water tank. So 4 units of energy delivered to the water tank, or an efficiency of 400% in this case. But what's different, most heat pump water heaters will extract the heat that goes into the heat pump from the home itself. And I'll talk quite a bit more about this as we go through, because that's an important difference. There's 3 basic configurations of heat pump water heaters for home use. The most common we call the integrated heat pump water heater. It has a water storage tank like any storage water heater would have, but on top there is a additional box or package that contains the heat pump that extracts heat from the surrounding air and pumps it into the water. These are great for unfinished basements or large mechanical rooms where there's ample air for circulation. There's also split system heat pump water heaters. And in this case, you have a standalone water tank with the heat pump is actually, most of the heat pump is packaged in a separate box. And this black panel is actually an evaporator panel, which is part of the heat pump. This goes outdoors and hangs on the side of the home. These are great for situations where you're in confined spaces, a closet or a tight space where the water heater doesn't have any space around it for air circulation. Or if you're concerned because you occupy the space near your water heater. Say your water heater's in a laundry room and you don't want cold air blowing on you, you might want this type of water heater. It's also a little bit quieter because it doesn't have an indoor fan. In fact, it doesn't have any fan. So it would be a bit quieter than the integrated model. And just for completeness, I will mention that there are outdoor heat pumps. This is a packaged heat pump system that's entirely outdoors. And it takes water, it takes cold water out, heats it up, and returns the cold water to the warm water back to the storage tank. These are uncommon. There's not too many products and fewer installers in our area, so I won't talk too much more about them, but just wanted to mention them for completeness. So what's not to like and like about heat pump water heaters? As I mentioned, over 60% reduction in carbon pollution, energy cost savings. If you're comparing to electric resistance water heaters, it's over 60%, can be quite a bit higher actually. Oil or propane, 20 to 40%, depending on your what rates you pay for electricity and oil and propane. Safer, no combustion, and integrated models can help dehumidify your basement, for example, but don't throw out your portable dehumidifier. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And they can help cool your home in the summer. On the downside, most of them require 240 volt service, electrical service. And if you're using fossil fuels now, that may require some electrical work to provide that. There are models available that will plug into a 120 volt outlet. For reasons I don't fully understand, some of the manufacturers are not pushing those models in New England, but they do exist. Noise, I think noise is usually only an issue if your water heater is near a bedroom. If it's in the basement, you're probably not going to hear it. You may require a slightly larger tank depending on your water usage patterns. Integrated models, again, you can get some comfort issues if you spend a lot of time hanging out by your water heater. You might feel the cool air. They do require some space for air circulation. Typically, this is 8 by 10 or 10 by 10 space. That space does not have to be empty. You can put all your junk around your water heater, but it does have to have some air circulation space. And it will increase your home heating costs a bit. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. There is a very simple filter that requires occasional cleaning. I just vacuum mine off every 6 months, not a big deal. And it does require some kind of a drain or condensate pump. Again, this is usually not a big deal, but it is different from a conventional water heater. Now, one of the things I added in here is 2 slides about myths of heat pump water heaters. I call these Bob's list because they're my impressions, and some may agree or disagree with these statements, but I think there are some people who are overly concerned with the noise. My experience is they're generally quieter than a portable dehumidifier. They'll make more noise than your household refrigerator, but they're not loud. Okay, we had someone already bring up the subject of reliability. Most of the complaints you see are anecdotal, and the good news is heat pump water heaters typically have backup electric resistance elements that should keep you in hot water should the heat pump fail. And they do have good warranty periods typically. That said, I will share with this group that I too am concerned about the anecdotal reliability information. It just seems that there is something to it. A water heater should be a very reliable product. My own suspicion is, like everything else in our homes, manufacturers have gone crazy with the electronics and sensors and controls. And my goodness, it's a water heater. Why do you need all that stuff? And that's the stuff that oftentimes causes issues. But that's my theory. But I don't have good statistically significant data to share with you on reliability. And they do often dehumidify, but don't get rid of your dehumidifier. They are not designed for dehumidification. They're designed for water heating. So if you go on vacation for a week and don't heat water, it's not going to dehumidify. It only dehumidifies when you're heating water. And even then, some models dehumidify more than others. We can talk more about that, but it's important to know that it won't do the full job. Okay, a couple more myth busters here, and this gets to the impact on your home heating loads. So there is a concern, and I've seen this concern from heads of engineers at HVAC outfits, some really knowledgeable people. They understand that if you're pulling heat out of your home and putting it into your water, you can't come out ahead somehow. That violates the conservation of energy idea. We won't go through all the details here, but I have been through this many, many times, and I think that there is an impact, but it's oftentimes exaggerated. It's for most homes, it's going to be more like a 10 to 30% hit on your effective efficiency. So if you have a heat pump water heater with an efficiency rated at 400%, maybe you actually operate at more like 300%. It's still great. This, of course, assumes you're using a decent system to heat your home. If you're using electric resistance to heat your home, that's the problem. But fix it by getting a heat pump to heat your home and put in a heat pump water heater at the same time. Okay, along the same theme, the split system heat pump water heaters are often lauded as being more efficient because they don't rob heat from your home. Now, we don't have good field data. I haven't seen good field data on these split systems. So my conclusions are a bit preliminary here, but I'm pretty confident in them. I still think that on an efficiency basis, you're better off with the integrated models. Again, if you are concerned about space for air circulation, if you're concerned about noise, if you're concerned about comfort, by all means, get a split system. But don't get a split system because you think it's going to be more energy efficient. Okay. The third thing that relates to robbing heat is ducting. And this is an idea that's been around for decades. Okay, we'll take the integrated water heater and we'll duct the intake and exhaust air to the outdoors. Again, I don't have hard data, but I've thought about this quite a bit, and it is unlikely to save energy, and it introduces cost complexity and reliability concerns. It's really making water heating
Hello?
complicated than it needs to be.
Okay.
Okay.
Tomorrow morning? Okay.
And same deal here would be
Okay, good.
my
Okay,
idea
good.
of barrier.
Okay.
You may or may not agree with all of these. One thing that's definitely true, heat pump water heater replacements are usually emergencies, and that's a tough time to sell someone on a new technology. That's just a fundamental barrier, and education is the solution. Now, people don't even know that these things exist. People are starting to get to the point where they know about heat pumps for home heating, but for water heating, that's still not well known. And this is definitely my theory, but plumbers don't know how to sell. Why would they know how to sell? People call the plumber when they have an emergency. There's no selling to be done. You'll gladly pay that plumber whatever he charges, fix whatever your problem is. So they don't know how to sell them. And let's face it, they're pricey. And I can't fully explain this. We put in ours 11 years ago. It was $2,000 before the rebate. Now they're running more like $6,000, and that's only 10 or 11 years. I don't know why the prices climb so fast. And if you need to run 240-volt power, that's additional money. And again, as we talked about quite a bit, concerns about the impact on home heating loads, which I think are overblown, and concerns about reliability and even hot water runouts. Now, the hot water runouts piece, it's really a matter of sizing the tank for your household, and it shouldn't be a big deal. On the other hand, it's really tough to compete with the heating capacity of a fossil fuel water heater. Most of those fossil fuel water heaters can give you almost infinite hot water, and the heat pump water heater will eventually run out of hot water. But again, if you size the tank correctly, it shouldn't be an issue. Okay. How much cleaner is a heat pump water heater? Here we're showing annual carbon pollution for a typical Massachusetts home having 3 occupants. And I'm showing 3 bars for 3 different versions of a heat pump water heater compared to the various conventional water heating technologies. And I do show a heat pump water heater as rated. So if you got the rated efficiency of say 3.8 or 380%, this is the emissions bar. If you're in an unfinished basement, I've adjusted this to account for the impact of the heat extraction from the home, plus some additional differences we see in field tests versus rated performance. And in this last case, I've adjusted it a bit more. If your water heater is installed in an area that's controlled by, the temperature is controlled by a thermostat, so it's actively heated, you'll see a bit more influence on your home heating load. So that does impact your efficiency. Now, as we always tell people, if you get your electricity from a renewable source, the beauty of decarbonization is you're essentially reducing those to 0 emissions. Okay, let's talk a bit more about cost. Here we have the same 3-person home. In this case, we're looking at the cost over the course of a year of heating water. First thing you'll notice, conventional electric is pretty bad compared to any of the other technologies. It's a very expensive way to do it. Now, these electric and gas rates are maybe 2 months old. For the purposes of tonight, I didn't update them, but they're fairly recent. And if you're in a municipal light plant community, you're seeing rates much lower than this. So this is more representative of National Grid or Eversource. So these bars would look very different. But with this price of electricity, you can see that natural gas is in a different position than it was on the emissions chart. It's frankly just as cheap or a bit cheaper than a heat pump water heater based on today's rates. And that's just a reality. And we always caution people, these electricity and fuel prices will change over the life of your water heater. And these are today's comparisons. 6 months or a year from now, they'll look different. I won't spend too much time on this. We do have incentives if you're in a community that's eligible for the MassSave program. Basically $750 for most heat pump water heaters, $1,500 for the split systems. And they're upfront. They're paid into the distributor, actually, so they're already baked into the price you get. If you buy through Lowe's or Home Depot, you'll get an instant rebate for the amount. There's also federal tax credits. I'll mention that the solar assisted split system models are marketed as just that, solar assisted, so they there's no cap on the federal tax credit you're eligible for those models, so that could help out. Obviously, you do have to have a tax liability to take advantage of these tax credits. Just very quickly, what we tell people in terms of an action plan, you'll probably guess the first thing I'm going to mention is replace your water heater when it's getting old, but don't wait for this to happen. That is step number 1. You have to be willing to replace before failure. And and not be in an emergency situation. So you can give yourself a little bit of time to figure out what's right for your home and get it installed. And again, if you have conventional electric water heating, replace it right now. It'll pay off. I won't go through this in detail. We just to make you aware, and I will provide these slides to MassEnergize if you'd like to check out some of these links. There's some sources I found very useful. And this is just a link to the Heat Smart Alliance coaching page, where depending on the community you live in, you can get advice from one of our coaches, or in some cases we link to coaching programs that we know about in other communities. And if you do have a coaching program in your community, please look at our website and let us, if you're not listed there, please let us know so we make sure we do include you. So that's all I wanted to say formally, but I'll stop now and be happy to answer questions or hopefully spend some time brainstorming what we need to do to draw more attention to this, the lowly heat pump water heater.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, so anybody who'd like to, you could just kind of raise your hand either in person or virtually through your screen. Yes, Megan.
Hi, Bob. Thank you so much for that. When you said that 60% savings on energy, is that in MMBTUs?
Well, if you're comparing a conventional water heater to a heat pump water heater, which is the most straightforward comparison, it all comes out. It's the same 60%, whether you think about energy, whether you think about cost, or whether you think about emissions. I tend not to talk in terms of cost, or excuse me, in terms of BTUs, because it does, it sometimes complicates the comparison when you're comparing electricity to fossil fuels, and it gets very confusing. So I usually stick to just carbon and dollars.
Thank you.
Karen.
Bob, could you say more about the solar assisted split system? Like how would that work?
Yeah, so there is that black flat panel that I showed in the picture. They typically mount that on the side of your house. It'd be great if it were on the south side of the house, but I don't know that that's always possible. So it's outdoors and it's black, so it does soak up solar energy.
Okay.
Now that sounds great, but I haven't seen the field data that support that the solar contribution is that significant. And you still have the fact that that evaporator is outdoors in the wintertime when it might be 10 degrees out. And unless it's facing directly into the sun, it might not get very warm. So it's tough to get good efficiency. And even the rated efficiencies for those split systems are lower.
Okay.
Instead of being in 3.5 to 4 range, they're more like 2.7-ish rated. And when I say rated, it's tested in, I think it's a 57-degree environment to get that rating.
Yeah.
That's not very cold. So you can imagine it might be lower. And it also depends on, go ahead. Yes, sorry.
No, I'm just wondering, this system is different from a solar water heater,
It
right?
is, yes.
Okay.
It's still a heat pump water heater. It's different from a solar thermal water heater.
Okay.
But New England Solar Hot Water, I'll mention them because they're a vendor that sells this product. They also sell the solar thermal water heating systems. And they've told me in past years that they're selling a lot more of the solar assisted heat pump water heaters than the solar thermal conventional solar water heaters, because they're just less expensive and, as far as I know, just as efficient, or maybe even a little more efficient.
Huh.
But
thank you.
yeah, I think how much solar assist you get also depends on when you take your showers. You know, if you take your showers in the morning, then your water heater will run during the day to heat back up, and they might get some sun. But if you take your showers at night, your water's going to heat up overnight when there is no sun to help out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Bob? Yes, Glenn.
Yes. Do you know anything about using a geothermal system to heat a domestic hot water? In other words, a heat pump that would run off the geothermal system as opposed to running off air to heat water. Is there such a thing? And if so, what do you know about it?
Yeah, there is. And I think most geothermal heat pumps, there is an option to basically preheat your water with the geothermal heat pump. My understanding is they can't do the full job though, so you still need a conventional water heater, or you could put a heat pump water heater to finish it off, but now you're investing in two things to do the water heating. And I don't know, I think in many cases, most people I know who put in geothermal heat pumps have opted to put in a standalone heat pump water heater and not try to take advantage of the water heating feature of the geothermal heat pump.
That seems to be what I find online too.
Yes, Geraldine.
Yeah, I have kind of a silly question because we just got our water heater. There are times when electricity goes out. Do they reset? Do they reset to their standard, to what we put them to? I mean, or do I have to go down there and make sure it's okay once the electricity comes back on?
Well, it's a good question, and it probably depends on your specific heat pump water heater.
It's the conventional one. It's got the it's indoors in a basement, unfinished.
Yeah,
basement.
but still the
Yeah.
controls
Okay.
may be specific to the brand and all, and mine's 11 years old now.
Yeah.
One thing that it doesn't exactly answer your question. I mean, it usually, when it resets, it goes back to the default, which is hybrid operation mode, and we like to operate it in efficiency mode. So you may want to check it and make sure it's in the mode you want it to be in after a power failure. And
that, I mean, that was one of the questions I asked the guy who put it in. He goes, well, I don't know. So, yeah,
this isn't quite your question, but I heard recently, I didn't know this, but apparently some of the newer models, all these models, you can put it into all electric resistance mode, if you wanted to. But some of them now automatically reset. If you put them in resistance mode for like 2 or 3 days, they'll automatically reset to the hybrid mode. But some people don't like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, any other questions for Bob?
Any thoughts on how to promote these? Is it really more of an awareness issue, or are other people hearing? What are other people hearing in terms of barriers or resistance?
Well, I'll just say that I can't say that after listening to this, that it's so compelling that I want to run out and do it. Like, I think I heard a lot of buts and efficiencies and, I don't know. So maybe a little bit more time.
I'm too pessimistic then in my pitch, but I wasn't, I'm usually a little bit more promotional. Again, you're community leaders, and I didn't want to put too much spin on it. But I am by nature honest with people too. So I hope people appreciate the difference between promotion and selling. I'm not selling, I'm promoting.
One of my questions that I had written down here is if you wanted me to do one thing, would it be a heat pump water heater, or would it be the heat pump for my heat. And not for, I guess for reliability, or actually you can answer the question however you'd want.
So water heating in a Massachusetts home, water heating's maybe 18% of your home energy use, whereas heating and cooling your home is more like 60%. So you'll have more impact by doing home heating and cooling with heat pumps than with a heat pump water heater.
Mhm.
But the heat pump water heater is second in line.
Great, thank you.
Okay, yeah, good answer, Bob. Tom.
Yeah, so one of the challenges I've had both in the previous house and my current house is having switched to heat pumps, air source heat pumps for the heating. My basement no longer has any heat in it. So it's an unfinished basement and it gets very cold. It got so cold, probably 40 degrees, and it's getting a lot of air infiltration, which I'm trying to deal with. But that concerns me about removing even more heat from the basement to heat the hot water. So I don't want to have it go below freezing and affect my pipes, etc. And that's a couple of homes now I've had to think about that. I ended up going with a solar hot water system because I wanted to avoid that issue. I don't know the mini splits, I was aware of them at the time. So I'm thinking about it for my own house now, but I think that's an issue is, when you've got an unfinished basement and it's quite low temp, you don't want to necessarily lower the temp even more by putting a heat pump inside the basement. So just
Yeah, that concern does come up once in a while. I have a hard time imagining any circumstances under which a heat pump water heater would contribute to pipes freezing. I mean, if you have pipes freezing, it's because you've got another problem that you should
Yeah.
fix. But it will chill your basement down a few degrees Fahrenheit, depending on the size of your basement and how much water heating you do. But the heat pump water heaters all have controls that turn off the heat pump and revert back to conventional electric resistance heat if the temperature gets down to something in the 35 to 40, 38 to 40 degree range, something like that. I don't know the exact numbers, but it should be warm enough that the heat pump will stop extracting heat from your basement if it gets really cold in the basement for any reason.
right. And that's the corollary that if it's going to electric, then you've got that really inefficient electric, heating in the winter, basically. So,
Well, you say in the winter, but it should only be for rare periods. And again, if you even without heat coming off of a furnace or whatever, or boiler, if your basement is getting near freezing in the winter time, you're doing the right thing. Try to weatherize as best you can and fix that. And yes, some basements, with or without a heat pump water heater, do need a little bit of active heating.
cool. Thanks.
Good.
Another thing to think about when you're thinking about these seem to be like for people who have money, because you're not going to get those EJ people who need, to be able to buy into this kind of an appliance. So this is going to be somebody who can afford to spend $2,000 for or $33,000 for a water heater. That's going to last you 10 years. My old water heater, it was rated for 12 years. We had it for 18 and it lasted.
Yeah.
I mean, this is rated for 10. It's,
I didn't, does anyone know what I only gave you the market rate mass save numbers. I don't know what the incentive is.
I think ours started at 1,800 and we got the 750. So somewhere around 1,200. Yeah, something like that. But that's still a lot for a water heater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everything's expensive these days.
I know.
You get a conventional water heater. We run into the same problem with home heating heat pumps.
Right.
It's tough, but everything's getting expensive, not
Right.
just heat pumps.
Right.
I think keep in mind if it's an income eligible household that the cap agency may step in and put some equipment in for free. So it's the running cost for a lot of those cases that's really important. If the cap agency is willing to install it, for free. There's certain circumstances I think they will, but others they won't. So that just depends.
And I'm guessing our next speaker might have a few things to say about that. So, yeah, about incentives, because that's what Grace is going to be presenting on. Are there other questions? Questions for Bob before we move on? Okay, well, Bob, thank you very much for an excellent presentation. Really appreciate your time, appreciate your wisdom, and appreciate all that you're doing through the Heat Smart Alliance. So
Well,
thanks for
and
joining us tonight.
And I will send a PDF of the slides if you'd like to distribute it. And again, just to remind everyone, please feel free to reach out to me at facilitator@heatsmartalliance.org. Be happy to talk to any of you about heat pump water heaters or about heat pumps in general and the Heat Smart Alliance. So thank you.
Great, thank you, thank you. Okay, and Bob, feel free to, if you need to leave, feel free, but, or, we'd love to have you, if you want to stay, so. Okay, well, our next speaker is from MassSave, Grace Thieberge. Is that right? Did I get that right, Grace?
Yes, you did. Nicely
Okay,
done.
so Grace is going to be sharing something about some of the MassSave incentives and some of the MassSave of things that we can look forward to taking advantage of. So Grace.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Definitely special thanks to Joe for coordinating with the folks on my team. This is the first of the rest of the year. We'll be having someone from my team for all the different programs that MassSave has to offer, which really is a wide variety of offerings. So we'll have a different one of us in each month to give a little overview of what our offerings are and how folks in your communities can take advantage of those. So I'm looking forward to being here, and it was great to hear from Bob too. We like to see what the sentiments are about the different products that we offer. So I am the program manager for National Grid in the appliance products and recycling part of MassSave. So my first presentation here, I'm going to cover some of those offerings that we have. I am going to touch on the heat pump water heaters just to tie into Bob's presentation there, so you can all see what our incentives are for there in a little bit more detail about those. And I will give the heads up that our presentation next week will be my colleague Steve Jaslowicz, who is the program manager for heat pumps. So I know that's a big ticket item for a lot of people. So we will have him next week for heating and cooling, which is mostly heat pump work that he does. So these are the different categories of residential rebate programs that we have, which I work on along with Steve. As I mentioned, these are incentive I'm going to describe are designed for market rate customers. So there might be different offerings for low income customers or moderate income in certain communities. One of the future presentations will cover those in more depth. So if you're looking for more information there, that will be coming in a future presentation. All right, so here's our overview for heat pump water heaters. Bob had it exactly right. We have a $750 incentive for these piece of equipment and the $1,500 for the split system. We do have 4 channels for participation, which we're really trying to find different ways to reach customers on these. Like Bob touched on, the awareness is pretty low, so we're trying to figure out what the best way is to meet customers at the right place in their shopping experience here. And we do require that the equipment be Energy Star certified, new, and replacing an existing natural gas, propane, oil, or electric resistance to be qualified. But there's 4 different ways the customer can access these. We do have midstream incentives, which means the distributors can sell them to contractors and the incentives go right to the contractor. So the customer would work with their installer to see that discount on their invoice, but there's no paperwork or application process that the customer has to go through. Something new we have in our plan for 2025 is an online marketplace for heat pump water heaters where customers can purchase their equipment, but they can also be connected with installers who specialize in heat pump water heaters, and they can get a fixed price for that equipment. So that'll be coming later this year. We also have the online or in-store instant coupon, which I think Bob mentioned this, and I'll put the links in my slides in the chat when we get to questions so you can all access those pages. But instant coupons can be used at retailers like Lowe's or Home Depot, on store or inline. Customers log on with and make an account with their utility account numbers, and they can get that $750 or $1,500 right off their price at checkout. And then we do have the downstream and post installation rebate for these as well, which is after the purchase or installation has taken place, they can submit online for that rebate and get a check in the mail for that amount. That takes about 6 to 8 weeks for that process to be fully. So the instant is definitely the fastest way for customers to get those, but downstream is available, say, if you have someone that maybe didn't know about the incentive or had trouble accessing it up to that point. As far as product and appliance rebates, these are smaller appliances in the home that they definitely overlap with heating and cooling somewhat, but the rebates are smaller. So here's an overview of all the different rebates we offer. Laundry machines, we have our electric cooktop incentives, lawn equipment, smart thermostats, windows, room air conditioners. This asterisk here is many of these also have instant coupons available for those incentives. So you can go online and get a coupon and use it at a Home Depot or a Lowe's to get the incentive at your checkout. A lot of these are going to be more energy efficient. They all are required to be Energy Star certified in order to get the rebate. And in some instances, they can be a lot safer. Like when we're looking at an electric stovetop, maybe we're eliminating the need for natural gas in the kitchen. And when you're looking to electrify, a lot of these are good options. And we have the heat pump clothes dryer, which has been around for about a year now, but we're starting to see a big pickup in interest with customers. They're also starting to make really fancy stacked versions of these, or combination units that are both a washer and a dryer, where a customer could get both of these incentives if their machine is qualified. We'll say if you're talking to folks in your community about rebates, I would recommend that they go on our website and check out what the eligibility requirements are for each of these. Some have additional requirements. For example, the windows need to be replacing a single pane window, and we ask that customers do some weatherization to really get the full benefit of getting the new windows. So that's just something to keep in mind to make sure that folks understand what the requirements are before they are applying for rebates. And like I said, some of this is covered at different amounts in low income programs. So those customers would have a different situation than what we've listed here as well. Customers can apply for a rebate online with their receipt and any other information, say, about the assessment they did to verify their windows as single pane. They can apply online. We know some customers prefer The paper trail, that is fine. We have that option as well. You can find our forms online, print them off, fill it out by hand, and mail them to our rebate processor. We do recommend the online just because it will be faster. Sometimes we run into issues with if customers have handwriting that might be hard to read or the space isn't big enough. The online rebates tend to move a little bit more efficiently, but we definitely accept those paper forms if that's something the customer, if that's the way they want to participate. We also have an online marketplace. This works similarly to the instant discounts. Customers make an account with our marketplace and they can shop any number of incentivized products, a sampling of what I showed before. Lawn equipment, smart thermostats are definitely the most popular here. We also have water products, so aerators and low flow shower heads. And we do seasonal promotions here in partnership with the manufacturers, as well as in addition to the rebate incentive that we get. We also do seasonal promotions, like this year in the heating season from mid-January to the end of February. We ran a renter weatherization promo. So renters could go on to a version of the marketplace and get some DIY weatherization products at no cost to them to try and do what they can about mitigating their weatherization situation in a rental unit. So the marketplace is a good resource there. Also, there's no, besides making the account, there's no paperwork the customer has to do. The discount happens right at checkout and they get the product delivered to their home. We also have our appliance recycling program back up and running. If you've been around MassSave, you know we had this and then it was discontinued for a while, but we are back in business as of this January. The appliance recycling program allows customers to have old refrigerators and freezers picked up at their home and recycled at no cost. And they can get a $75 rebate for each fridge or freezer. They can do 2 as well, or both. And if they have a dehumidifier, they can add it to the pickup for an additional $30 rebate. This is a great offering for customers. We verify with our recycling vendor that everything is recycled to the EPA standards, so we know all the refrigerants are being taken care of as they should. They pick it up right at the customer's home, and we've had some great success with customers on this one. You can schedule online or via phone, so either of those are good methods. And then if you don't have a refrigerator or freezer that needs to be recycled, but you do have a dehumidifier, we also run dehumidifier turn-in events. Here's a snapshot of our upcoming schedule. These are seasonal, so we're just starting up again. We had our first events the very last weekend of March. So we'll be adding more and more accounts. This is just our next 4 towns that they'll be stopping by in, but customers can bring their dehumidifier to the local event. And if any of you know your towns might be interested, or you might be already on here, I think I heard a couple people from Medfield might be on the phone. So we're really excited to be able to partner with communities as well with these events. We had a great one this weekend where we recycled 100 dehumidifiers, and it was a sustainability event, worked with their sustainability coordinator. So we promoted all sorts of the town's measures and events. And we have incentives for electric vehicles with National Grid or home energy assessments to get weatherized, all sorts of things that we promote there. So those are really great events for customers to take advantage of. And we're adding dates still through the summer and into the fall. So customers can check regularly to see what more events we might be adding if your town isn't listed there right now. So there's my overview. Let me find my links so I can put them in the chat for anyone that wants to access them now. And I'm also happy to take any questions about this, or if there's anything specific about other topics that you want me to relay to my counterparts that are going to come in the next couple weeks, I'd be happy to pass that along to them to make sure we cover anything that's of interest to folks.
Great, thank you, Grace. Really appreciate your taking the time and explaining all of that to us. So yes, Tom has got a question.
This is a little bit off topic, but I've been very interested in the new window heat pumps that are becoming in the market. It's like a saddlebag design. So it's a very interesting solution for, let's say, apartments. And do you know if window heat pumps are becoming part of the Mass Save program, the way, say, a whole house heat pump would or a mini split would? Or could you pass it on to your colleagues to look into?
Yeah, so I know that we have what we would call the new product team. So basically, that's a pretty new technology, but we really like it for our customers. We like it for places that say you couldn't do a whole home heat pump with mini splits because the space isn't accessible, or apartments, like you said. They're cheaper. The electrical upgrade might be less. So we definitely like those. It's with our new products team right now. So there's a lot of math that goes into which products we incentivize, and what energy savings we can get there. So I'd imagine when it comes time, it probably will be in a similar category to the heat pump water heaters, where there would be a variety of paths to access them. Because it probably is more similar to that than it is for the heat pumps. Just the way we have the incentive structured by the quantities. But that definitely is on our horizon, although I don't know if it will make it into, we just started a new 3-year plan. So they maybe in a couple of years they'll add that, but they're definitely working on it.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Megan.
Grace, I was wondering how you publicize what might be new on the marketplace incentives. Do you just have to go there to find out, or are you publicizing it?
That's a good question. Usually you would have to go out. The products that we incentivize don't change too often. We do have sales that are basically sponsored by the manufacturers of those products, and those we do email marketing that comes from the utilities. So you might, if you're a National Grid, Eversource, Cape Light, any of those customers, get email marketing from us that says, Happy Earth Day, these are the extra sales that are going on this month. Go ahead.
So interestingly enough, I live in Medfield, and I do not know about this dehumidifier thing that's coming up on Saturday, which could be because I'm traveling a lot. But I wanted to say that MassEnergize has the ability for you to add events to our event portal that communities can share. So if you came in and added the event, oh, this is in Medfield, this is in so-and-so, this is in so-and-so, then we get in Medfield, we get an announcement, or everybody across who has the portal gets information about that event, and then we can share it to our community. And I would like to just maybe work with you on how to do that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Share it out.
Yeah, we would love that. We have our website for the turn-in events, and we do send emails and mailers for a lot of them to our customers in those towns. But I would love to maybe if Joe would mind connecting us, or yeah, that link is awesome. I would love to get more of our events on there. Thanks, Megan. That's awesome.
Yeah, Hilly and then Glenn.
Muted, sorry.
You're
Uh,
muted.
yeah, Grace, I'm also from Midfield, and I also did not know about the turn-in event. So I'm very happy to hear that we're on your list. The other place you could send it to is through the town and their DPW. You know, the transfer station, they have a really cool newsletter, and that could get wider circulation there. And, you know, just stepping back a little, this may be a really stupid question, but is the idea that when people turn in their dehumidifiers, that they replace it with a more efficient one? Or what's the rationale of this?
Yeah, so the idea is to basically get older, less efficient dehumidifiers out of production, or not production, but out of use, and to make sure that they're recycled in the
I
best
see.
way. We actually we don't offer incentives on new Energy Star dehumidifiers anymore, but what we still do on the recycling.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and good idea about the transfer station. I wrote that down, so we'll make sure to get in touch.
Yeah, Glenn.
Thank you, Hilly. Got half of my question. Thank you, Hilly. But I'm also from Medfield and was not aware of the dehumidifier recycling. My question is there anything additional beyond just the dehumidifier recycling that takes place at the Medfield High School, or is it simply a trailer set up to receive the dehumidifiers and provide the rebate incentives?
That's a great question. I don't know off the top. Usually that's a town specific thing. So in some towns, we just do the recycling and it's a drive-through effectively. And in some towns, if we have other groups that are going to be there, I don't know. Medfield, I know, is Eversource Electric, so their Eversource program manager is going to be working on that event. So I'm not sure exactly what the offerings are going to be for that event this weekend, or if they would have any other community representatives there at all.
Okay, thank you, Grace. I live across the street, so I'll walk over Saturday morning to see what's going on.
Okay, I will definitely let my counterparts at Eversource know that I met so many of you on the meeting this afternoon or this evening. So we'll have to do a better job spreading the word. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, Florence.
Can I say that Ashland and Hopkinton held an enormous take back, and including the from you, the what do you call it? What we're talking about. Just this past weekend, that's probably where the 100 odd were turned in. It was advertised extensively, and if you have a town sustainability coordinator, that person took the lead in our situation, in our town, and worked very closely with Hopkinton. It was clothing, it was glass, it was cardboard, it was plastic, you name it, everything. And it was the word I can't think of. Yeah.
Great. That's great. Thanks for sharing. We certainly have good success when we're able to partner with folks in the town to get more. And if it's a green team event, which I think we did in Hopkinton, Ashland, they partner with Habitat for Humanity. So they take donations and they recycle all sorts of other products with a small fee. And then you can do the dehumidifiers with MassSave. So good to hear you had a good experience there.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Great. Yeah, Hilly.
Yeah, so I have another question about the, like if I talk to other people about thinking about recycling their, bringing in their dehumidifier, what sort of efficiency ratios or age or range or whatever, I mean, how do I advertise to them that they should really consider turning this in?
That's a good question. I would say that definitely if they have one that is old enough to not be Energy Star certified, most that are popular in the market now are, but would say if it's 5+ years old, and definitely if it's not Energy Star certified, that it is probably
Seen better days. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right, thank you.
Good. Any more questions for Grace? Okay, well, Grace, thank you very much for your sharing. This is really good information. And we all know, as was talked about earlier and Bob mentioned, a lot of these things are expensive. So knowing that there are rebates, knowing that Mass Save has active programs to support, not just both the recycling, but also the purchase of a lot of these, really makes a difference. So thank you for the work you're doing, and thanks for sharing this information with us. And for everybody else, we will be sharing whatever information that was shared with us tonight. So I did see Grace put a lot of links in the chat. Feel free to grab those from the chat, but also we will make sure that those go out in our follow-up email to everybody who registered for the presentations tonight. Okay, well, we have a little bit of time left. Is there anything that people want to just bring up unrelated to heat pump water heaters or Mass Save incentives? Any questions, any concerns, any sharing of what's going on, exciting things going on in your community? We'd love to have a little bit of time to hear thoughts, impressions, successes, and or questions. Yes, Karen.
Nathan, I wonder if you could say a little bit about the survey that went out and some of the thinking.
Sure. Yes, happy to. I'll say something, but let me just see if my colleague Ariha is. I know she's on, but I'm not sure if she's muted. Ariha, do you want to turn on your screen and just say a little bit about the survey and the software?
Sure. So about the survey, we want to hear from all of our communities. We are hoping to hear from more than one person who is involved in the community portal, like whether it is content creation or whether it is like just putting on stuff on the portal, if you are tech savvy or not. But if you have like any views, any feedback about the software, about the portal, we would love to hear from you. And is there like any specific question, Karen, you would like me to answer regarding the survey?
I mean, sometimes it was a little bit unclear if, I think of the portal, I guess, as a template, and in each community, utilizes the template to do the, actions that they feel are appropriate. And there's a lot of sharing between communities about language and icons and whatnot. But there was a sort of, there were a number of questions in the survey about kind of standardizing content. And I guess I'm curious about, if MassEnergize is thinking about, doing more standardization.
Yeah, I'll answer that. So yeah, thank you, Karen. For the rest of you who may not be aware of what we're talking about, we are actually reevaluating our software and the community platform that we currently support in all of our communities. And we're looking for ways to make some modifications, make some improvements, but also to streamline. It has become quite a burden for us to customize, a lot of the features. And so just to, before we make any changes, we really want to understand the communities who are using our software, how they're being used, what are the things that are really important to you, what are some of the things that you may not, features that you may not use, because there's no point in our spending a lot of time recreating a feature that nobody really uses. So yes, Karen, you're right that we are evaluating our software in order to think about making some changes, in order to make both improvements, but also streamline things so that we're not going to be supporting every single feature, particularly if we know that people don't use all those features. So this is part of our kind of evaluation from our users, and that's why it's really important that we hear from our users before we launch into making kind of changes and updates. Karen, as you know, certainly Acton has been an active part. You'll be hearing more about this, but we wanted to start just by surveying our communities in order to get your feedback. If there's things that you really like and really use, we absolutely want to hear that. And if there's things that you really don't care about, we want to hear that too, so that we don't spend time on that. So if any of you are part of our, supporting our platform from communities that have our platform, please do take the time to fill out the survey if you haven't already. We really would appreciate that. So, and those communities who perhaps are thinking about having having our software, you'll be hearing about this too. But what we're looking at is making some revisions to streamlining the survey features that we currently offer. So Karen, does that answer your question a little bit more?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, great. Hilly, did you have a question?
No, sorry, I accidentally logged off.
Okay, no problem. No problem. So, okay, yeah, any other, Fabiani, you want to share something?
Yes, I want to invite everyone to our upcoming Community Solar webinar, which is going to happen next Wednesday. So I will put the registration link into the chat, and I hope you can join us.
Great. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, as you know, what we do, for those of you who may not be so familiar, we hold regular webinars for some of our programs. And so Fabiani, this is a program, both the plug-in program, but also what we're doing in Swampscott, as well as our programs in Framingham. Many of them have to do with community solar offerings. So we're doing a webinar focused on community solar, and we'd love to have as many of you can join us. And Fabiani has put the link in the chat, and we'll also make sure it goes out in the resources that we send out as well. So, okay, other questions, sharing, announcements. We just have a few minutes left. Okay, well, thank you. What I usually like to do is to end these the communities of practice just by asking whether there are any pressing topics. I know that in the past you all have shared thoughts or ideas for topics you'd like, and we are making a list, and we try to, each month go through the list to see, are there ways that we can address some of the topics or questions. But we're always open to hearing further feedback, further topic requests, further questions we'd really like to have a community of practice session focused on one topic or another. So are there any requests, any thoughts, any passionate concerns that you'd like to have us focus on for a community of practice meeting? I know it's late, everybody. But yeah, well, thank you. If there aren't other things, we can just end a few minutes early. But any final sharing, any final questions, thoughts? This is really an open time for anybody to share any updates or anything they'd like. Okay, yes, Jim.
Hi, yeah, I was just gonna say, one thing that has come up is getting, I know that you guys allow communities to share templates and share a lot of information, but we're trying to figure out how to share events between communities more widely. So I'm not quite sure what to say about it, but we've just had a discussion, and I know that you have ways of doing that we should just leverage. But if you have other thoughts about how to do that, I think that would be a really useful thing, because lots of us are making individual community efforts that would be much better shared amongst all of us.
Yeah. Well, Jim, I mean, you are certainly familiar with our event sharing. Are you not? I mean, I think you must be.
Yeah, yes, I am. And I'm kind of looking for a way to, I know that I'm pressed for time, like all the time. I'm looking for a way to become aware of events without having to dive through lots of emails and lots of different places to go and stuff. So that I'm thinking out loud here, and I don't have an answer. I just have a question. So
yeah, well, so that's great, Jim, and maybe this is something that Ariha can also follow up with you on after the call. But we do try to we do digests for community leaders such as yourself. We do have a kind of a digest of all of the community events that are going on, and then that enables you on your site to see which other community events you want to share. But it also enables you to put your events on and have other people look through the list and see which ones they want to share. But in addition, Jim, if you like to, I don't know if you had a chance to fill out the software survey, but we're also certainly taking requests for, oh, we would really like to have this feature or that feature, even at something that doesn't currently exist. We'd love to hear about that. Because we'd like to be able to consider including that in the software revision that we're going to be doing.
well, one thing I can think of would be maybe just like a calendar, with shows all the events across the state, like just like plastered with events. And then maybe somehow you could like filter it to ones in your region or something like that. But just like a bird's eye view of everything that's happening that you might be interested in, you could go and hover it. And it's like, oh, that's happening there, that's happening there, that's happening there. That might be, that seems like that could be kind of compelling to me, but have to be thought through.
Okay. Arihad, did you capture that idea?
Yep, I did. That's a great idea. And I
Okay.
also just want to add to the event sharing topic which you mentioned, James. So we do send out through an automated email every Monday. I think it's around 12 p.m. or 12:30 p.m. All the community admins would receive an automated email, and the subject would be see and share events from other communities. And there's like a ready option right in front of the event which says share with your community. So if you click on that, you would be able to just add the event from other community to your community portal. And if you want, I would be very happy to schedule a Zoom meeting with you and show you more on event sharing. So I can follow up with you after this meeting.
Yeah, I think that I have unanswered emails from you already to meet, and I apologize for that. I'm not intentionally rude. I'm just busy. So
No worries. I do understand.
thank you.
Sure, but Jim, yeah, we're happy to follow up with you on that. So, yes, Hilly.
Yeah, so I want to add to what Jim was saying, and I agree. It gets to be a lot and confusing, and I'm wondering whether not only sort of local regional events should be a filter, but maybe to a topic. Like if your community is running, some sort of topic, and you want to filter, is there anybody else who's doing something or has a recording or something? it would be nice to be able to filter with a topic.
Okay. Good. So filtering, so event sharing, a calendar of events I heard, and then some filtering.
Yeah, so I actually, you know, instead of a listing of the emails, just literally what Jim was saying, a calendar with just topics, like a one-liner, you know?
Okay. Good. Super. Okay. And it looks like we might have sorry, I'm just looking at I was looking at the chat. Okay, so Sandwich, is that Lynn? You're sharing the Compact of Cape Cod Conservation Trust provides a platform called Talkify. Do you want to say a little bit more about that? You'll need to unmute.
Sure. So the Compact of Cape Cod Conservation Trust, which is a group, an overall group of all the trusts on the Cape that pay into their, membership. They provided this calendar, conservation calendar, through a platform called Talkify. And we all got, access to it and a little bit of training, and it's not difficult to go on. You can add events to the calendar so that anybody who comes around and wants to know what's going on the weekend or something can take a look there. It also allows you to look ahead if you're thinking about scheduling an event, so that you could maybe not do the same event in the next door town or something like that. You can plan things better.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think we're aware of that. So thank you very much, Lynn. Really appreciate the suggestion. And we will look into that.
You're welcome.
Great. Okay, well, I think we're out of time. Are there any quick last comments or questions before we wrap up? And if not, thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you to Bob and to Grace for your presentations, and thanks all the rest of you for joining us and for your questions and your sharing. So have a good next rest of the month. Many of you probably have Earth Day events happening. We look forward to seeing those of you who are able to join us for our climate leaders conference on the 30th. And otherwise, we'll see you in a month on, I believe it's May. What's the date in May? It's the second Monday in May, whatever that date is. I've forgotten. But we look forward to seeing you then.